Get yourself in the lotus position, because I've got no plan, no pretense, and definitely no bypassing. I'm Josh Connolly, and this will probably be dysfunctional. I said I wouldn't be back this week, but I'm here. And today we're going to go deep on a very important subject, actually. I'm going to be talking about trying to co-parent with a toxic person. I'm going to talk about how you can't co-parent with a toxic person. And we're going to get into talking a little bit about post-separation abuse as well, because I think it's a topic that's not talked enough about, and I think it's grossly misunderstood. And so I really want to get into that today as well, and really help you understand what it's like for people that go through this experience. And if you are somebody that goes through this experience, not only am I going to talk about it, am I going to validate your feelings around it and your experiences around it, but I'm also going to talk about what I think you should do if you are trying to co-parent with a toxic person or a narcissist or whatever you want to call them. But I want to start by reading this article from the Guardian newspaper. I probably won't read all of it, but I'm going to sort of paraphrase most of it. This is from the 9th of April this year, so very, very recently. And it starts, a decision to allow a father contact with his daughter despite him having sexually abused, domestically abused, and coercively controlled the mother is alarming, a court has heard. The allegations against the father, who is a member of the armed services, were found to have been proven on the balance of probabilities, which is the civil standard of proof, in a 2021 fact-finding judgment by the family court. So that basically means that the family court have decided that on the balance of probability, this man did sexually abuse this woman. He coercively controlled her, and he domestically abused her. And the lawyer representing the mother said in the written thing that findings of that fact have been put to one side, and the focus has been on this pro-contact approach, which I'm going to talk about. In fact, let's talk about it now. In an ideal world, and in most circumstances, look, there are lots of instances and there are lots of circumstances where families break down, where the mum and the dad or the co-parents, whoever they may be, where the two parents' relationship breaks down entirely. There's bitterness, there's feuds, there's difficulties. And what really needs to happen is to make sure that the children are the central focus in the way that that is navigated. In those normal circumstances, for want of a better term, what you do want to try and do is get everybody back together, make sure that the kids have got fair and true and right access to both parents, and so that we can minimize the damage and problems that are caused by divorce when it happens when there's children involved. Okay, divorce can be the best thing in many, many cases, as long as the children are the focus. The parents put their differences aside, and they make the children the focus, and the children get fair access for what works for both parents in their new lives, and the children are at the center of how they do that. However, if one of the parents is abusive, this is where it gets really complex. So I understand the pro-contact approach. We should have pro-contact approach apart from where there is abuse. And this is where it gets sticky, and this is where it gets tricky. And I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers for this, but this is definitely where it gets tricky. So in this instance that we're talking about, the mother is appealing the decision by the recorder. She said, as the approach has been nothing but alarming. A sexual abuse victim ordered to promote contact with her abuser. At no stage has there been any consideration nor any regard given to the impact of the profound sexual violence and abuse that I have suffered, nor has there been any assessment as to whether F even accepts the findings which is required. She said that the father manipulates her daughter to be mean about her and exert control over me and cause me distress, adding that a cross allegation of hostility against her victim blaming for struggling to promote the sexual abuser. is ridiculous. And it is crazy how often this happens. How often, and in a lot of cases, we're talking about a woman here is forced to have some kind of relationship with her abuser for the sake of the children. And it's hugely problematic. By the way, to be clear, it is not just women that are on the receiving end of this abuse. Men are on the receiving end of the abuse as well, at the hands of their ex-wife or girlfriend. So it definitely, I can assure you, happens both ways. But I do think that maybe sometimes it's worth just highlighting that in a lot of cases it is the woman, the mum, that ends up with the child, and so then is abused from afar by the man in this instance. And this is what is happening to countless parents, mostly women, as I've said, behind closed doors. Post-separation abuse is real, and the system isn't set up to see it. And this is like one of the most important things. There's an incredible charity called Mums in Need that I do as much as I can to support. We've given them money in the past through the work that we do with Supreme CBD oil. So any profits that I've made from them in the past, I have given to Mums in Need. We allow people from Mums in Need that are engaging with the charity, so mums that are experiencing post-separation abuse, get free access to our online community. And we've got a retreat coming up in London in May, and we've given 2 spaces to people from Mums in Need there. So they're a great charity that support mums that are going through this and experiencing that post-separation abuse. And so, you know, when the breakdown of the family has just happened and you're a single parent now and you're doing everything that you can to look after the children and you're experiencing this post-separation abuse, it's really difficult. Now, I also want to highlight as well that when we're talking about toxic, narcissistic, fucking horrible people, whatever you want to call them, sometimes when we talk about post-separation abuse, there'll be lots of people that are experiencing that won't realize that actually what we're talking about is abuse. They'll just think that their ex-partner is horrible, or they'll just think that it's I have a really difficult relationship, and a lot of the information out there that's given is aimed at people that are in the breakdown of a relationship. So you'll hear constantly, put your differences aside, and this is how you co-parent correctly, and da-da-da-da-da. Now, all of that advice that's normally given in the co-parent example, where the relationship has broken down and the 2 parents just need to put their differences aside, all of the information that's given there is probably great for them, but it is the wrong information, and actually is information that toxic and horrible people will use to demonize, victimize, and smear the actual good parent in this. So I want to try and pull some of that apart today, because it's really difficult. And if you are co-parenting with one of these people, it eats away at your life. Okay? It seeps into every single part of your existence. They have a way of ruining every day. They have a way of controlling your house without ever stepping foot in it, and if they need to, without ever needing to engage with you at all. They have wills and ways of getting to you, and it is awful. And the worst part about co-parenting with a toxic and horrible person in this way is you will end up wishing your child's life away, because the only way you'll feel like the abuse can stop is when they've grown up and you have no reason to have any contact whatsoever. I want to assure you that there is, as difficult as it is and will be, there is ways around this. There is ways to make it easier for you. So I'm talking a little bit here about the myth of co-parenting. Co-parenting only works when both parents are at least semi-decent human beings. You might have a period where it's really, really difficult, but ultimately in the end, you'll come together and you'll put the kids at the heart of what's needed. You know, that's really important. And when you're dealing with an emotionally abusive person, when you're dealing with a toxic and horrible person, pushing co-parenting tactics, pushing co-parenting ideals onto somebody who is trying to co-parent with a toxic, horrible person, abusive in the cases that we're talking about, then the co-parenting tactics being pushed on them is actually dangerous. And we need to really fucking recognize that, and we don't. And this is why we have to talk so clearly about things. This is why I talk so explicitly about things all of the time, because sometimes we need to talk explicitly about things and call things what they are. Nuance is important. I'd like to think that I'm really good at talking about nuance. And sometimes we need to be as fucking clear as day as we can when we talk about these things. So let's just give some examples of what people will experience when trying to parent with a toxic person, co-parent with a toxic person. Now, you may have heard me, actually, before we go on here, you may have heard me use the term parallel parent a few times. When you're dealing with a toxic and abusive person, you are not co-parenting. The best that you can hope for is parallel parenting. And that is where you are parenting alongside what they do. They will do what they do, and you do what you do. Here's a list of things that you will potentially have experienced. Now, this is quite a common one. Financial abuse. So where the parent finds a way to use finances as a way of exerting control. That could be withholding child maintenance. That could be withholding financial support, withholding access to funds that could help. You know, I see people all of the time thinking they have the monopoly over what their child maintenance money is being spent on. And all of that will kind of be used as a way of keeping power, exerting power, and exerting abuse over another person. The smear campaign. I talked extensively about the smear campaign. These toxic and horrible parents will be out there, right? They are fucking out there as much as they can, smearing the shit out of you. If you're the one that's got most, having the children most, they'll be making out like they're trying to fight to get the kids in their care, but they're not really fighting, because they probably in most cases don't actually want them, although they'd like to have them only to take them away from you, to be able to abuse you, not because they actually want the kids. If you're the parent in your instance, and you don't have the kids and you have them, you know, I don't know, every weekend or whatever it may be, they'll be out there smearing you, you know, saying you don't want anything to do with them, you know, anything that they can to smear you to everybody. And they will use reactive abuse in that. They will push and poke and prod you to make you seem like you're being the unreasonable, unhinged, crazy one. They will push and push and push this. They will paint themselves as the calm and reasonable parent, the one that just wants the best for the kids, and what they can do, because they're toxic, abusive, and horrible. And in the way that I've already said, co-parenting doesn't work, then it's dangerous and hugely problematic. In this instance, what the toxic and horrible person will do is push co-parenting narratives, and the fact that you can't accept those co-parenting narratives and can't do them means that you're the one that's painted as the bad one and as in a bad light. I'm going to talk about this when we get to the solution piece at the end as well, by the way, to get you set up to feel a bit more confident in that. They'll use social media. Yeah. So if you're not in that much, if they don't have the kids that much or don't see the children that much, when they do see them, they'll be posting these fucking happy pictures with their kids. The only times they're ever taking pictures of the children doing stuff, and the only time that they do stuff, is so that they can put it on social media and show how fucking much of an amazing parent they are, right? If they're the one that have the children all of the time, there'll be subtle digs at you, maybe not so subtle sometimes, but digs at you as the other parent at the things that you're not doing and how you're not there, and like, you know, that constant smear campaign as well. They will push you to be the crazy one. They will push and push and poke and prod so that when you do react, they can label you as the unreasonable crazy one. And And they'll keep everything just as subtle as they can. And like I say, one of the most subtle forms of abuse that people will use in post separation, in this kind of needs to be parallel parenting space, is pushing co-parenting tactics that are not, in this instance, remotely anywhere near good for anybody. And they'll push them, and they'll push the fact that you're not using them and you're not allowing them as the reason why you're the crazy, unhinged one. They will push for legal and custody. So you look at that story that we've just talked about. They will take everything to court as well, not in the best of interests. They will, like, you know, you could implement something that's very fair, that's very decent, that everybody's happy with. You could even go to court to do that. They will keep pushing court all of the time, yeah? Not because it's for the best interest or because they want to get to a point where that's acceptable and amicable for everybody. They'll do it just to cause drama, just to push pain on you, just to cause problems. They'll file false reports, complaints to social services. They'll desperately try to discredit you. They will, if you do contact only through a solicitor, they will start fucking barraging your solicitor with long fucking letters to the solicitor that they know that you then have to pay the solicitor to read, and these will just be big, long fucking word salads. They will text you fucking long word salads. They're supposed to pick the kids up at 4 o'clock. They'll text you to say that they're picking them up at 5:30, but they won't just tell you that they're going to be late. This text message will be designed to pull you in, and these messages can ruin your fucking day. They will seep into your household. This person will have control over your house through a single fucking long word salad, horrible text message. You will get caught in that, trying to pick it apart, trying to figure out what the fuck it is, and trying to, like, you'll get pulled in, then you're in it and you're trying to send something back to make them see it, and it's all done like that by design. It's all done like that by design. They will constantly threaten custody battles. They will use the reactive abuse that they've got. They will fucking barrage you in the way that they do, and then if you send back a message that is a little bit kicking off because it's fucking appropriate reaction to the way that they've poked and prodded you, and then they'll screenshot just your reply and they'll send that to the fucking, as I say, negotiator. You know what I mean? The person in the middle. Can't find my words. There will be, you can see that this gets my fucking body riled when I'm talking about this. You can see that this gets my body, but let me take a moment. Let's take a moment, if you're listening, to do this with me. I've put control through communication, yeah? So I've talked about this sending text messages that seem innocent on the surface but are laced with threats, blame, or guilt tripping, making out that you're a terrible parent, that you caused all of this. I mean, let's not forget that they may have left you, they may have done that, but they'll try and frame it so that you left, you're the one that broke the family apart, you finally fled the abuse, but they'll frame it as you're the one that broke the family apart. They'll use co-parenting in the apps or messaging platforms as a tool to emotionally torment or provoke you. A lot of these co-parenting apps, they still mean that you have to engage with them, and they engage with you subtly, so that it still can't really be seen that they're doing anything wrong, and it'll make you seem unreasonable. And they don't care that people can see that because they do it in such a subtle way. And if you're going on holiday, if you've got big moments in your life, they will send these messages in perfect timing to ruin the holiday, to ruin the big event, to ruin the weekend. They know exactly what they're doing, and they will do it on purpose. And they will send these, and if you block their phone number, they'll put fucking letters through the door. They'll send them in the post. They will not give up. And when it comes to the co-parenting apps, by the way, I'm going to talk about something called Neutrally. You go to neutrally.com, and I'm going to fucking put that link in the the bio of this because there's a really good app. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then they'll use the children as well. You know, probably the worst act that they do of all of them. They'll try and, you know, turn the child against you, bad mouthing you, doing you down, talking down about you to other people in front of the kids, ignoring routines and rules to create chaos and undermine your authority. And then, by the way, they'll always throw that at you. By the way, if you're co-parenting with a toxic person, that toxic person will be saying to you all of the time, you're counter-parenting, that's their favorite line. The most annoying thing, this is exactly the same with toxic parents and all toxic people that I talk about, is the most fucking, actually, I could say that about everything. But again, like everything, just as annoying and horrible as everything else is, they will throw everything that they are doing, they will throw as an accusation at you. Make no mistake about it. If you're listening to this, when you're trying to co-parent with somebody like this, life is fucking hell if you don't have a plan. It's fucking hell. So what can you do about it? Before I talk about that, before I just tell you about what you can do about it, and there is a solution, there is a way of dealing with this. I just want to say very, very clearly, and I want to say this very, very clearly. If you're co-parenting, the things that I've just talked about, and I hope I've highlighted them well without being too ranty. I appreciate that I have been a bit ranty about it. I just want to validate how hard it is for you and how hard it's been for you trying to raise children, trying to protect children, trying to not bring the children into it when you're battling with somebody who shouldn't even really be granted the term parent, who's only using the kids as a pawn to create their own fucking supply, who is only battling against you to try and ruin your life, to try and make everything horrible for you. I just want to validate how horrible that is for you. How horrible that is for you. But there is stuff that you can do. And the key thing is, this can't be about winning for you, okay? And I can understand why you get caught up in that, but this can't be about winning for you. This has to be about protecting your peace. And let me say this very, very clearly now. I want to be really clear here. If you are trying to co-parent with a toxic, horrible person or a narcissist, whatever you want to call them, you have to let go of the idea that you'll ever be able to co-parent. Don't listen to the fucking perfect ways of doing it that you see on social media. Don't listen to people that tell you that you need to put your differences aside, that if you could just do this and you could meet them in the middle. Let go of the idea that that is fucking ever going to happen for you. I'm saying it clearly and bluntly like this because you need to understand this. If you chase the idea that you could co-parent with this toxic, horrible, abusive person, you will break yourself. You will do nothing but hit dead end after dead end after dead end. You will never get them to see your point of view. You will never get them to rationalize in the way that you do. If you give them a little bit of yourself in the hope that they'll just give you a little bit of what you need, they will not give it to you, okay? It will not happen. They only care about you being a supply. And so what does that mean? As somebody that is trying to co-parent with them, you'll never co-parent with them. You have to parallel parent with them. However much you have the kids, give them as much love and consistency as you can, okay? And know that they will see the truth when they reach a certain age, right? But you cannot be a supply for that person. You cannot be a supply for that person, and that means grey rocking them. That means you get set up on when they pick the kids up and when they take them home, however that is and what that ever that is, and you fucking never, ever, ever deviate from that. You don't give them any little bit of wiggle room on that. You stick to those rules of engagement entirely, and then you engage with them on nothing else ever. That's the only way. You don't react. You don't argue. Some people will say toxic and horrible people, what they hate the most is the truth. They don't. They don't care about the truth. If you give them the truth, they'll twist it up and create their own fucking truth. And all you've done is give them another opportunity to make you the supply. They don't hate the truth. They do not hate the truth. They love any interaction that allows them to pull you back in. Because if you give them the truth, they can twist it up, tie it in a fucking toxic, horrible bow and throw it back at you, and you're in. You're in the drama, you're in their supply, and then you're caught up in this horrible thing of trying to get them to see the truth. They don't hate the truth. They fucking love interaction. They love having you as a supply. What they hate the most is nothing. Is when you give them nothing. You give them not even the truth that they can twist up. You just grey rock. You stay cold and you only interact only ever on the key factors. Pick up is this time, drop off is this time. We do not deviate from that. And you don't fucking speak away from that at all. Ideally, you want to get a court order on this. If they want to go, I'm going back to court. You don't even say go back to court. No interaction. Pick up is 3:30. Drop off is whatever it is. That's it. You don't answer anything else. Now, neutrally.com, which I'll put the links in the description of this, is a great new tool that you can use. What they do is they become the middle person. What do they fucking call it? What's the word I'm looking for? They become the middle person, yeah? I can't think of the word. They become the middle person. But basically what that means is what they do is they neutralize every interaction that you have with your ex-partner, okay? So your ex-partner never texts you. They don't WhatsApp you. They WhatsApp the number. If they've got a query, they want to ask you something, if they need to interact with you, they text this number. The people at Neutrally will then neutralize the message. And if there's any information that needs to be shared with you, they'll share it in a completely neutral way. And that person doesn't get to interact with you. They just don't get to interact with you. They can ask to change time and then fucking fill it with a word salad. It goes not to you. You never even read that. Neutrally will take that message, neutralize it. And if they've asked to move the time, they'll text you and just, can I pick up at 5:30 instead of 3:30? And you go, no, you can't. 5:30 is the time, and you just send it back, and that's it. And you never ever deviate. And so, like I say, I'll put the thing in the description for that. But neutrally is a great way of doing it, because what you'll eventually find is that because they no longer have any access to you, they know what they're sending you is being neutralized. What you send back is only important neutralized information as well. They need to go and find a new supply, because you ain't a supply no more. This is the key thing that you need to understand if you are trying to parent with a toxic and horrible person like this. And I know I've said it clearly a minute ago, but they're never going to see it from your point of view. And what you will do is, like, when they do send you these word salads, if you're going to keep going down that route of reading them, you'll read them and then you'll just think, well, maybe, look, if I could just fucking, like, okay, well, I don't really care about this, so let me just fucking say this to them, and then hopefully they'll see this. And they will never... Any interaction that you have with them is an opportunity for them to twist and manipulate. So you have no interaction. And they'll try. They'll put down at first. They'll come up with even more extraordinary, extravagant ways of connecting and contacting you. You get rid of all of them. They don't get access to you at all. Like I say, ideally you get authorities to set the times in place. But if they're not going to do it, then you set them in place, and you just stick to them. And the key thing is, by the way, you have to never let go. There's never any give and take. Let's say, for example, that they pick the children up at Friday at 4 and bring them home on Monday morning, right? At 8, right? You can never deviate from that neither. I mean, you have to change your holidays, do whatever. You work around it. If you need somebody to look after the kids, you do not ask them. You find somebody in your own life to do it, or you don't do it. It is not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You have to, and that's how clear your boundaries have to be. No engagement. You have no engagement with them whatsoever. And you will find that eventually, when you can no longer be a supply to them, they'll go. They'll stop. By the way, let me tell you this as well with the reality, if you're dealing with a toxic and horrible person of the ilk that I'm talking about, when your kids get to teenage years, they'll lose interest in them fully. They won't care about them unless they're using them to parade on social media on, Mother's or Father's Day or on birthdays. They'll do a fucking Facebook post or an Instagram post where they talk about what a fucking amazing parent they are. But other than that, they won't really have any interest in the kids. And that's horrible, really. But it will give you some relief. And that's because when the child gets to being a teenager and they sort of develop a much fuller version of themselves, they're of no use to them. They're too hard. They're not like, they don't get to control them in the way that they used to. And they can no longer be a supply in that way. And so they'll just lose interest in them. I promise you that will happen in most cases. So my final message here, and I'm really glad that I managed to get this podcast in. You're not crazy. They'll make you feel like you're crazy. You'll get pulled in, till you start to implement this grey rock plan. And I really hope you'll implement this grey rock plan as a result of listening to this if you haven't already. Because they'll pull you in. They'll ruin your days. If you're in a new relationship, you'll be having arguments with your new partner, driven entirely and solely by the ex-partner, done in that way on purpose. You'll find your day is ruined from one single text message or a fucking letter through the door or a letter that they've sent to your solicitor. And I hear you, man. And I understand how hard that is for you. And I understand how difficult that can be. But you need to implement this grey rock plan. You need to protect yourself and your children from the ongoing abuse. You be consistent and loving to your children. You're allowed to point out the truth. You don't have to do the other parent down, and sometimes you will in front of your kids, and you're human. It's not your fault. You've been pushed to that. If you fucking have a bit of a rant about their mum or their dad or whoever, the other parent, give yourself a break. You're the victim of abuse here. Remember, don't forget that. And so most of the time you can say to the kids, that doesn't feel right. Here's what feels like the truth to me. And that's it. You be very neutral, tell the truth, but very neutral as much as you can. And just because the system doesn't see it, it doesn't mean it's not happening. You know the reality, and you should trust that, and you should trust yourself. And I trust you. To anyone out there that's going through it, I would seriously look at neutrally.com, honestly. I am going to have some affiliation with them. I want to support them, really, and just get them out there as much as I can. And as it stands at the moment, all I'm doing is talking about them on this podcast because the idea is incredible. And it's really good. Yeah, and I hope that, you really do recognize how hard it's been for you as a result of your experiences with co-parenting. I hope you can now parallel parent in the way that I've explained. Listen, if there's more that I could do for this, let me know, because I'd love to try and, even if it's like create a bit of a support pack or something, because I just know how hard it can be for you with what you're going through. I hope this podcast has helped a bit. I know I got a bit ranty in the middle, but it wouldn't be a dysfunctional podcast if I didn't get ranty with it. I'm going to finish it there. I'm going away for a week now with my family, and I'll see you all next week on next week's episode. But for now, I'm Josh Connolly, and this was definitely dysfunctional. I did tell you it would be dysfunctional, so thank you for sticking around till the end here. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, then please help me to grow Dysfunctional by sharing with your friends on social media. You can find me at Josh_FFW. And then wherever you're listening to this or watching this, please make sure that you've liked and subscribed, left us a 5-star review, and a comment if your platform allows it. And I'll see you on the next one.